Arizona for 5 minutes of question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses. This has been very interesting and informative. I'm glad to hear that we actually may have bipartisan support in helping the victims because of the system is obviously broken. And I just want to emphasize that by saying what happened to my office, okay? So as of January 1st of 2024, this year, the total number of CICP COVID claims filed was 12,854. I have a constituent that had a very severe reaction to the COVID vaccine. He filed a claim. He hasn't heard anything. I haven't heard anything back. So my staff, who's sitting in the back, called or contacted the CICP legislative affairs person and said, okay, what's the update on this person? They couldn't give him any update. Then they said, well, he asked, how many of the claims have you processed? Have you done? And the answer was, we don't have that information. I mean, how can you not have that information? This is absolutely ridiculous. And Mr. Chairman, I think this is a really big problem if they don't even have the information of how many claims they've processed or they've awarded. I mean, it was $41,000, I believe, has been awarded in the CICP. And, with how many claims? 12,854 claims? I mean, that's like nothing. All right, well, that's my rant. But then I do have another question, and that is, Dr. Whalen, you had testified that you had a boy in your care that died. You had done an initial report, and then you tried to follow up, am I correct? And then say, he passed away, and they didn't update it. You didn't hear anything. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, I have a story also of a New York man who suffered from, and I can't even pronounce this, HLH, after the COVID vaccine. His initial report was classified as life-threatening. Then his second report, filed after his death, was classified as hospitalized. After their initial complaint inquiring about why his report is not indicated as a death, his family subsequently received the following email. Quote, good afternoon. Thank you for contacting the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System VAERS program. Thank you for taking the time to file the report. VAERS data available to the public include only the initial report data to VAERS. Updated data, which contains data from medical records and corrections reported during follow-up, are used by the government for analysis. However, for numerous reasons, including data consistency, these amended data are not available to the public. And then the family subsequently sent an automated message at the end of 2023 to update their VAERS report on his condition, saying he is dead. And the family has just been totally distressed because, it's not reported accurately. And so do you have any suggestions? I mean, I know you haven't got anything back. Do any of you have any suggestions on how we can improve this process? It sounds like it's absolutely messed up.
If I may, Ms. Lesko, I'm also from the state of Arizona. My family's lived there since the 1940s, and I live in Rio Verde. There is a problem with getting, because the information that's contained in VAERS is not complete. The information you can download online is not complete, and it can be complex to do. I personally had to learn how to do SQL programming and use databases and buy some expensive software to get all the information to be able to view. But there's information which is also not submitted electronically. And this is an unrelated matter, but there's right now one of the things I'm looking at are the safety of puberty modulating drugs. And I want to tell you about a story that I had when I called the FDA to request some of that information. So I found out when you look at all adverse events over a long period of time, I found about 70,000 hits. And I'm not sure what those hits are made up of, but when I spoke with the person, with the director who's the head of, at the FDA, the head of FOIA, my first request got lost. And my second follow-up, when I asked for it, I said, I would like this information. And he said, well, that's going to take us about 30,000 hours to get to you. And then he asked me for $1.2 million just to be able to review those data, just to be able to go over them. And so I think the problem, the fact that it's, again, but it boils down to what one of the other Congresswoman was saying, it's transparency. There's a lack of transparency, and there's too much information that's redacted. And in order to redact that information, it takes time, right? It would take $1.2 million in salaries and 30,000 hours for those employees to have it. But as someone who's familiar with the rules of HIPAA and keeping medical record secret, I don't understand why they have to be redacted. I mean, I could just sign a form saying, okay, I promise not to release this information, and that's that. And so there's a blockade. There's like an embargo in trying to get this information so that drug safety people like myself can at least take a look at it and see what to make of it, see if there is a pattern, and cross-reference it to clinical trials, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. It's been very interesting, and it's very interesting, Ms. Gentry, of what you said and what the deficiencies are in the number of people that are processing, and that you think that the COVID vaccine should go under CICP. I didn't realize that under CICP they couldn't have an attorney. I didn't realize that till you said it.
Well, I said there's no right to counsel, that people have their attorneys, but it's not a court process, so there's not really much that the attorneys can do.
Got it. Thank you.